Be Frankie.
Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy BDELL. If you're new to this channel, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. Now, everything that you're seeing taking place on the international level is setting the stage for asymmetrical warfare under a Hegelian dialectic principle. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we finna jump straight into it. You know, put those rice bowls in the chat. You already know what time it is. Put the rice bowls in the chat. Hold on for a second. All right. So we're going to get started, ladies and gentlemen, because there's a lot of things that's taking place on the planet on an international scale that is very, pretty much detrimental, to society, to where it's going to create a ecological humanitarian crisis, which is a form of destabilization when you're talking about, trying to put resistance on the evolution of humanity. So with that being said, we finna get straight to it. Now, when you look at this right here, everything is basically the epitome of the grand finale. They setting the stage for the blueprint for the next timeline because remember, we just came out of the 999 completion code portal. And that portal was based on a spiritual metamorphosis by way of transformation because the number 9 is a representation of completion, transformation, and war. And war is an anagram for the word Mars. So it's a Mars energy on the planet right now that's connected to the international political systems, not right? So now, I'm gonna just leave this right here. Salute to the, master teacher, Bobby Hemming. I'm gonna just leave this right here because this speaks for itself. Everything that you see speaks for itself. They will do some fucked up shit to distract you at the beginning of the fall equinox. Salute to Bobby Hemming. Salute to the master teacher. Salute to you. Because like I said, when you understand the matrix system in the sense, you will know that the system operates on cycles, and cycles is operated by data, and the data is connected to the cosmic clock, and the cosmic clock is being facilitated by everything that's connected to the Metatronic overlay. When you understand the 3 dimensions, they can no longer trick you. That's why I keep telling y'all, spirituality is about having the ability to not be tricked, right? Because you understand that polarity is the illusion. Soon as you get into Democrat, Republican, you're going to get caught up in the, into the illusion. So that's why I said you got to be very meticulous during this process, right? So with that being said, now it says right here verbatim, trigger warning, Trump's right-hand man, Charlie Kirk at Utah event, FBI is investigating, right? Now, you got to understand something. As you get into the Jason months, right? They're going to ramp up their psychological operations because everything that you see taking place right now, they're going to do it in increments because it's based on a covert operated system, meaning that it's hidden. That's why I said it operates under a Hegelian dialectic principle: problem, reaction, solution. That is the unholy Trinity principle that is connected to the corporate apparatus of a tyrannical government. Now, like I said, numbers do not lie, right? So from June 14th of 2025, which is Donald Trump's birthday, right? He was born on 1946. And then all the way up until the time of Charlie Kirk's incident, that was on September 10th of 2025, which is 88 days. And 88 days is equated to Pope, the last Pope, Pope Benedict. And he passed away when he was 88 years old because the 88 is a representation of the silver key and the golden key that unlocks the galactic center, right? This is all connected to the necropolis that was taking place in the Vatican when the Vatican popes of Rome, they unlocked those 5 portals to unlock the galactic center to where we go back into a 5th dimensional civilization. So this is why I said everything that you see taking place within the sun cycle has to expose the illusion. The illusion is the silver key, but the golden key is the key to the galactic center, which is the golden gate. The golden gate is cultivated by the sun cycle. So that means that you cannot hide shit during the time of the sun cycle because the sun is going to reveal everything. Just like how we're revealing everything during this process when you're talking about the Great Awakening, when you're talking about us breaking down and decoding everything, because when you understand the principles of artificial intelligence, artificial intelligence doesn't operate on rules, right? In order to break the matrix, you got to be pseudo, because pseudoism in itself is a form of intrinsic knowledge to where you're able to take different schools of thought and you put them in one pot, right? That's the same thing that artificial intelligence does, right? So if you want to beat the matrix and you want to break reality, you got to be pseudo, because anytime you try to confine yourself to a certain ideology, that's a form of stagnant energy, and anything that's boxed in is stagnant. So if you boxed into Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, or you just boxed into anything as far as like the grassroots of African spirituality or Kemetic spirituality, is one of those things where you cannot be confined to an ideology, because like I said, it's the embodiment of stagnation. So if you want to evolve, you got to take from many different schools of thought. So you got to touch in gematria. You got to get into the Vedic codes of the vector vortex codes, which is 9th dimensional knowledge. You got to get into the Ashastragan when you're talking about the polymystic of the sacred 23. You got to get into historical context, past and present. You got to touch on every school of thought and bring it in one piece. And you got to watch movies. That's why I keep telling people, if you want to understand the system, you got to break the matrix. And in order to break the matrix, you got to break your mind. You got to break out of the box, right? And how you break out of the box, you got to, be like artificial intelligence, or in essence, the way artificial intelligence operates, we're supposed to be operating like that, because you cannot forget that, the carbon body in itself is photovoltaic, meaning that he has the ability to convert gamma radiation to bioelectricity. And the bioelectricity is amplified by 7 billion octillion atoms in the body. And all of those atoms are about, billions of years old. So that means that you're basically a walking and talking universe in itself, right? Because, when you get into, the carbonated energy, you will know that the great majority of our physiology is made up of stardust particles, right? But that's a whole different transmission. But what I'm trying to tell you is that you cannot be one-dimensional when it comes to the information, because it tells you right here, this is when you get into gematria. Gematria is the language of the universe, or the language of the simulation, because everything in the simulation is operated by a mathematical sequence. So Saturday, June 14th of 2025, and you go all the way up into the time of Charlie Kirk, September 10th, his incident, that's 88 days, and Trump, his ordinal value is 88 as well, and that's equated to the Golden Gate Bridge. This is why I keep putting the Golden Gate Bridge up, because that's gonna be the next 9/11 event that's gonna be taking place. So with that being said, you already know what time it is. They setting the stage for everything. This is the grand finale, right? And I'm showing you by way of symbolism. I'm showing you every time. Rod Hayes done told you. Bobby Hemmett done told you. Dr. Malachi Z. York done told you. Hell, I done told you in some of these videos when you're dealing with the plane crashes or whatever. So now, this is where it gets kind of weird, because my birthday is October 14th. I'm not one of those people to where I feel like everything is a coincidence or whatever. I don't call certain things, oh, that's spiritual. I'm very connected to reality. I'm not one of those people where there's a bunch of flies in my house and that means that I have monitoring spirits watching me. I'm not one of those people. You got flies in the fucking house because you left the door open, about 5 or 6 times in about 10-minute increments. That's why you got so many damn flies in the house. It's not because somebody's watching you. So when it comes to stuff like this, these alignments, I'm very, practical, and I operate from a place of rationality. So in my opinion, I think something is weird is going on, and I'm not one of those people who, what I'm saying, is try to, uh, pull different, schools of thoughts or whatever and try to make it conform and bend to my reality. So what I'm saying is that, his birthday is on October 14th, and so was mine. And then you had the 2023 Ring of Fire solar eclipse on October 14th, right? And then from September 11th to my birthday of October 14th of 2025, when I'm putting my book out, that is exactly 33 days apart. You cannot make this shit up, man. Like I said, I talked to the OG Rod Hayes, and I've been telling him I've been getting a lot of weird synchronicities that's dealing with my birthday. It's dealing with the numbers of the 3, 6, and the 9. I've been getting a lot of, weird energy that's coming from the number 5 and 14 and 23. And I'm going to break that down as we get into the Asastragon sigil system on how to rewrite the source coding that's connected to the Saturnian matrix system. So this is what, from September 11th of 2025 all the way to the time of October 14th, that is exactly 33 days apart. So now I understand this is connected to Kirk, Charlie Kirk, but if anybody in the chat, please tell me, how is this in alignment with, what's taking place with, how everything that correlates with the transmissions and the information I'm putting out, because this is weird. This is weird. Everybody put the rice bowls in the chat because this is weird. And, my girl, she lives with me, and it's one of those things where you kind of, I share my experiences with her, and she sees them as well. And she's like, man, this is weird. Like all these damn synchronicities, something is like, it's brewing up to something. Now, as I was telling you guys before, the perception of art imitates reality. The CIA has an office in Hollywood, and Hollywood has an office in the CIA. Now, remember this movie, Civil War, right? This movie, Civil War, that came out last year. Now, when you're talking about the whole situation with Charlie Kirk, now it was a guy that was connected to the Utah college campus. He put out a tweet and said that Charlie Kirk is coming to my college tomorrow. I really hope someone evaporates him, literally. And then on the thread of the tweet, he says, let's just say something big will happen tomorrow. Now, mind you, when you get into the inception points of the movie Civil War, the movie Civil War was basically a form of the deep state shadow government being combated by the Luciferian White Hats, which is the Republican Party. So there was a war within the government, which is actually taking place right now, which is why Donald Trump is speaking against the deep state shadow government. And I'm going to show you a video of that as we get to the transmission. Now, I told you, when you understand everything full spectrum and you want to break the matrix, you got to understand how colorology is also applied to esoteric information. Because when you look at the finger paintings on the movie, this is a part of the movie Civil War. This is a picture of a scene. You notice you see the transformer flag symbol on his nails, the color spectrum. Then you go up to the top here. You can't make this up, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody put the rice bowls in the chat because we cooking up this esoteric knowledge. We in the grand finale. And like I said, Illuminati, we on to you. We're going to catch your ass every time. So then look at this. The same color spectrum as the transformer flag. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to say certain words. But like I said, and then it says right here at the bottom on the Eugene Weekly, it says, as the Trump administration attacks transformers, some blank folk are armed and ready. And like I said, the perception of art imitates reality. So everything that you see taking place right now is unraveling by way of the movies that's connected to our reality. That's why I said, when you break down these movies, you're going to be able to telegraph what's going to be taking place next, which is why I'm going to show you this right here, this next movie. Now, I just seen it last weekend. Because one thing you got to understand is that right now you have Saturn and Pisces right now, which is a representation of a fractured reality. That's what the movie was basically about, the Conjuring movie. It was a fractured mirror, and it had 3 different entities at the top. And the three different entities is the representation of the rising of the three kings in the book of Revelation. And the rise of the three kings is connected to international governments, a quantum crypto control system, and a one world religion. So this is when you get into Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Pope Leo XIV. So this movie is basically representing the fall of the Vatican Church, which is why they've been putting out, many different, public service announcement talking about, UFOs and extraterrestrial life, because they know that during the time of the sun cycle, that basically collapses the energy of the moon that is connected to all forms of monotheistic religion, because they operate on the Sabbath. Anything that deals with the moon is satanic energy, right? Because when you get into the book of Enoch, they talk about the Elohim, Gabriel, Michael, Raphael, and then you have, another nomenclature title for Satan, which is Gandriel, which is also associated with Hallel, which is Halal. And Halal, when you translate the word, it is basically the epitome of the crescent moon. So the moon energies on the planet is connected to all forms of religion. I don't care if you don't subscribe to it or not. But like I said, you cannot negate the truth, because etymology is going to tell your ass every time what's taking place on the planet. So now, the three heads is a representation of the three kings, right? The three beasts. The three beasts of Revelation: Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Pope Leo XIV. Donald Trump takes over international governments. Elon Musk takes over the quantum crypto control system. And then you have the resurrection of a false religion under a one world order that's going to be cultivated by Pope Leo XIV, because 2027 is a representation of the fall of the church, right? That is going to be the transitional shift. So this is why I was talking about the El Nino non-weather, where you have the waters from the east collaborate with the waters from the west, which is a form of destruction that activates the seven trumpets. And the seven trumpets are the seven plagues, and the seven plagues are the seven thunders that unlocks the scroll of all that's connected to the planet. Because the scroll of all is actually the real temple. It ain't no damn church. So that's why I said this movie represents the fall of the church. Get your ass out of church. Stop going to church, right? Because they're telling you in the movie that you have to be prepared for it. This is why you have so many people right now having many different forms of artificial intelligence psychosis. Why? Because it's breaking their reality the more they ask questions to it, right? And the more people tap into the truth, we're going to break their reality as well. So the same thing that artificial intelligence is doing has the ability to break the matrix. You got to break the matrix, with your octave vibrations of your throat chakra. You got to break the matrix as well, right? So now, let me get this. So now I'm going to show you a video. We're going to get into some videos because I've been talking too much. We're going to get into some videos real quick. So if you're new to the channel, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell, ladies and gentlemen, because we own their ass today. We own it. We own it. Illuminati, we are on to you. We're going to catch you every time. We're going to catch you every time. You ain't going to catch me lacking. I'll tell you that much. So I must get into the Utah, because like I said, everything that you see and taking place is a psychological operation. Everything is covert. They got to do everything in increments because it's setting the stage for the agenda for 2030, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to play this for you guys. All right. All right, let's go, ladies and gentlemen.
But that doesn't mean we got to resort to violence. That just means that we can simply agree to disagree if we have to. But speaking to my colleagues that are Democrats, my colleagues that are friends, they should be calling on their colleagues that have been spewing this hatred rhetoric and telling them enough is enough. And by the way, for anyone that on the Republican Party that has been doing it, I will tell you right now, enough is enough.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the...
Now, like I told you, spirituality is about not being tricked. I need y'all to look very closely at this video. This is AI. This is CGI. This is artificial intelligence, right? I'm going to show you.
Heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight all who knew him and loved him are united at college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot.
See that?
Who devoted.
I caught it right there, right here at about 45 seconds. And you notice he's also the 45th president too, in the 47th. So numbers don't lie. So the glitch was right at 45 seconds. Can't make this up, ladies and gentlemen. Put the rice bowls in the chat.
Charlie was a patriot.
See that?
Who
he glitched right there. I'm right here on his left side, but on our right side, he's glitching right here. This is artificial intelligence. Everybody share this video, man. Like I said, they're going to hit you with psychological operation after psychological operation. Just like Bobby Hemmett said. What did he say? They're going to do some fucked up shit around the fall equinox. And what did Rod Hayes say? He said, they coming during Virgo season, something's coming. Because he understands that the 9 is a completion portal that takes you to a different space and time that's based on spiritual and political transformation.
Patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot.
You see that?
Who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith, and we take comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven. Our prayers are with his wife, Erica, the 2 young, beloved children, and his entire family, who he loved more than anything in the world. We ask God to watch over them in this terrible hour of heartache and pain. This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. His mission was to bring young people into the political process, which he did better than anybody ever, to share his love of country and to spread the simple words of common sense on campuses.
Another thing I'm going to teach y'all on how to decipher if it's artificial intelligence or not or whatever. A lot of times you'll be able to see a blue hue around the person's head or whatever. It's like a blue silhouette. That means that it's being manipulated by way of the liquid crystal polarization. It's called liquid crystal technology. Liquid crystal technology is one of those things where you cannot refract light off a fake image or whatever. So like I said, it's going to expose itself. So what you're seeing taking place right now is a manipulation of liquid crystal technology that is connected to, all cell phones, computer screens, and televisions. When you see this little blue hue right here, you can tell that right here, this is artificial intelligence, ladies and gentlemen.
Nationwide, he championed his ideas with courage, logic, humor, and grace. It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives. Tonight, I ask all Americans to commit themselves to the American values for which Charlie Kirk lived and died, the values of free speech, citizenship, the rule of law, and the patriotic devotion and love of God. Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country. An assassin tried to silence him with a bullet, but he failed because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come. Today, because of this heinous act, Charlie's voice has become bigger and grander than ever before, and it's not even close. May God bless his memory, may God watch over his family, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
So, like I said, spirituality is about not being tricked. Everything that you're seeing taking place right here, this is artificial intelligence. This is artificial intelligence. So this is why, the World Economic Forum, they said it's going to be a Sears pandemic that's going to be taking place during the next timeline, because that is a nomenclature title for the severe intravirus epidemic respiratory syndrome, because the intravirus is an emulation of the cube of Saturn. But that's a whole different transmission, because they want to do everything to stop you from being able to see. That's why they're calling it Sears. That's what the next, shutdown is going to be about. It's going to be a neurological disorder that's going to be connected to the cordyceps. But, I'm going to break that down on a different video. But like I said, they want to stop you from being able to see. And the eyes are, biologically connected to the brain in itself. So, like I said, if you attack the mind, you're also attacking the two physical eyes, which is also interconnected to the spiritual eye, which is the third eye, which is connected to three-eye atlas. We're going to get into that as we get through the transmission. So that's that video. Then I'm going to show you one more that's connected to what took place in Utah when you're talking about with Charlie Kirk, right? So I'm not one of those people, whether if the incident, took place, whether if it was a psychological operation or if it really happened, rest in peace to that, young man or whatever, because, nobody's, deserves that. He was actually speaking against certain things that actually benefits us as so-called Black people when you're talking about the nucleus of the Black household and things of that nature. So salute to him, for doing his part on that. But like I said, it's one of those things where you cannot be a devil. You can't be a devil. You can't be celebrating somebody's life. The last time I checked, we're supposed to be righteous people, right? So like I said, man, it's one of those things where you don't want to be confined into a certain ideology that's being propelled by social media. So think for yourself. Just because you see everybody else celebrating, deviate and operate from the path of the middle way to connect with your higher self, because your higher self is not going to lie to you, but social media will. So I'm going to play this video. Now, when you look at the reflection, you got people just walking regular in the background. Now, from my logical, assertions or whatever and everything, just to be rational, if I see everybody ducking down, my ass is going to be ducking down. I'm not going to be just walking straight in the background. You can see the people in the background walking in the back. So if everybody's ducking down, I'm either going to be running somewhere or I'm going to be ducking down too. Or I'm going to be like, hey, what's going on? What? Everybody just like they walking to lunch. Come on, man. You can't come on, man. Come on, man. But like I said, it's one of those things where, like I said, you got to be very meticulous, because this is all connected to, leave the world behind, because the great majority of the elites went underground as, the great majority of humanity, they faced affliction on the surface. So that's why I said, how you know that this wasn't created, as a psyop just for him to get extracted, fake his death to where he goes to a deep underground military bunker system to escape the judgment. Because I told y'all the final sacrifice before the year 2030, when you're talking about the smorgasbord event, on how the elite is going to go underground, right? But like I said, that's just something to think about. But I'm going to play it again. Pay attention to the background. You're going to see people just walking to lunch, or they just walking, getting off work. I don't know. But everybody else outside is ducking. This is weird. This is weird. That's crazy. And look at him. He's sitting there just chilling. Like I said, I don't know if it's one of those things where people are so desensitized to the point where they don't care no more. Or, like I said, is this a form of frequency modification to where people are just basically stuck and not, having the ability to react, on a genuine level. So you got to, be very critical during these time periods because everything is going to be tricky as you have the rise of artificial intelligence and things of that nature. Now let's get back to the presentation at hand. Now, like I said, this is all based on, as I was telling you guys about the coronation of kingship. And then this movie came out during the time, during the times of the full moons and things of that nature. So this is a critical time point right now. This is a critical time right now because those moons were basically resets for the Great Reset, right? Which is why, the Council of Kings, they had to meet. When you're talking about Mark Zuckerberg, you had Bill Gates, and then you also had Donald Trump. They was all meeting together because they're basically setting the stage for the agenda for 2030 through Project 2025, right? So like I said, this movie was a representation of a fractured reality, which is why you see the mirror crack, because this is why you have Pisces and Saturn right now, which is a form of karmic retribution of the old world, a fractured reality, as you have the rise of three kings that's connected to international governments when you're talking about the United Nations under a crypto control system with Elon Musk, international government with Donald Trump, and one world religion with Pope Leo XIV. Because this movie symbolizes the fall of the old world that is connected to the Vatican Church. Because the Vatican Church in itself, they stole over about 2 billion acres of land with the doctrine of discovery in 1493, right? So like I said, everything that you see taking place on the planet right now is a form of engineered resets mixed in with prophecy. Now, this is where we get into the numerical bag, right? Because like I said, everything in the simulation is numerical. So the time of the shooting was at 12:10. And then when I went to December 10th of 1948, it showed you about the adoption process of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights after, World War II, right? Post World War II. So this timeline leads to war, right? So this, the time of this, shooting that took place, this was basically a transitional shift that took you to a different portal because numbers are portals. Because soon as I seen 12:10, I was like, what all happened during the time of December 10th all throughout history? Let me find out what's going on with that. And it took me through a timeline portal. And this is where I led up to. I led up to this. The United Nations General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in Paris, right? So this is basically post World War II crisis. And then I went to this as well, right? This is why I tell people all the time, you cannot just be fixated on artificial intelligence. You got to tap into yourself. You got to speak to an elder. You got to read books. And you got to use artificial intelligence such as ChatGPT to basically give clarity to whatever that you're basically trying to manifest, or give clarity to whatever that you're basically trying to extrapolate in a form of knowledge. So you got to have 4 principles in order to reach the apex of enlightenment as we get through the golden age. Connect with the elders, read books, go within, and use ChatGPT as a catalyst. Use it as an anchor to galvanize the information to where you're able to rationalize, everything that you're basically trying to talk about. So, or trying to expose. So from 1948, and this is all the dates of December 10th that had an event crisis next to it. So I already told you about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And then in 1949, you had the siege of Chengdu, and during the Chinese Civil War. Then 1970, you had the United States railroad strike stopped via emergency legislation. 1977, the Soviet suppression of the human rights protests on the United Nations Human Rights Day. And then on 1979, you had Taiwan's crackdown on pro-democracy demonstrations. And then on 2016, you had Gambia deploys military admit dispute election results. 2021, you had a devastating tornado outbreak leads to United States federal emergency declarations. So all these basically kind of line up with what's taking place because, like I said, the numbers are portals, and the portals is connected to a cycle, and that cycle leads to, time jumping. And time jumping is connected to our reality by way of the gematria codes of numbers. So that's why I said everything that you're seeing taking place is a cycle. And the cycle is connected to data. And the data is connected to the holographic fractal matrix. Now, that's why I said this was a portal for war. The time of when he was unalived at 12:10 p.m. in Utah, and then I went to all the crises and all the events that took place on December 10th, all throughout history, and it led me through a timeline portal of what's taking place when you're talking about a declaration of war. So that's what Charlie Kirk's unaliving basically symbolized. It symbolizes a declaration of war. So it's not a coincidence that Donald Trump, he renamed the United States Department of War and called it the War Department, and was the United States, the Cabinet Department originally responsible for the operation and maintenance of the United States Army. Because like I said, the reason he did that, because like I said, Donald Trump is the last president. He already got hats made for, Trump winning the election in 2028. They already got the hats made for it, right? Because like I said, the perception of art imitates reality. Donald Trump is the last president. He signed the Second Declaration of Independence on July the 4th of 2020. And that's when he became the 19th president of the Republic. And the reason he became the 19th president of the Republic is because you're seeing the eradication process of maritime law as you have the rise of common law, because common law is for the people and maritime law is for the corporation that is based on a corporate apparatus that's connected to distribution and importing and exporting of goods and services. That's their system. That is the third party entity that keeps you away from your sovereignty, right? And all that's basically being eradicated. So like I said, you're having a war within the government. So now this is why Donald Trump, he signs executive order giving DOD secondary Department of War title, as I was saying. So he renamed it because like I said, Donald Trump has continuity of government. He has full control over FEMA. He has the ability to activate martial law, right? He has the ability to hit the reset button because he's the 19th president of a republic, right? And it's not a coincidence that it's connected to the number 19, because 19 is actually AI when you understand the numerical value and how it's connected to, alphabetical letters. So now, then you got this going on. You got all these, what I'm saying? Like I said, it's one of those things where you don't want to get caught up into, the psychological inducement of everything that's connected to social media. Everything that everybody's doing on social media, you do the opposite of it if it's negative. If it's coming from a negative, connotation, deviate, because that's how you get caught. That's how you get lost in the sauce, because now you're picking sides. Now you're connected to polarity. The real spiritual journey is the path of the middle way. That's evolution. When you pick a side, you're stagnating yourself. You're marginalized. Stop picking sides. Oh, I'm with the Republican. I'm with the Democrats. Stop doing that. Don't represent neither. Just focus on yourself and evolve yourself. That's what the 3-hour atlas is all about. It's all about evolution, human evolution. How you going to evolve yourself and you still worried about some damn politics? You still worrying about, I need to spin off on the odds. I'm going to go against the military. Worry about your damn self. So it tells you right here, Chicago gang member warns Trump not to send National Guard. Says the streets are armed with switches and ready for war. Yeah, they got psychotronic weaponry for your ass, right? They got, octave vibrations that can manipulate and cause brain hemorrhages to where you ain't even going to shoot your switch. So like I said, they got that type of technology. We're not ready for war. That's why I said you have to upgrade yourself to where, the carbon body in itself becomes a electromagnetic generator and a light code transducer, because when it transduces the light, what happens is you crystallize. And when you have crystallization, what happens is bullets cannot penetrate your skin. So stop trying to fight the war physically and fight it internally, because when you fight the war internally, That's when you're going to be able to resurrect yourself and become the Christ. And when you become the Christ, can't nothing infiltrate your cipher. No gun, no bullet, no government, no genetically modified food, nothing, right? So now this is where we get into the esoterics of it. Because, one thing you got to understand about, human consciousness, I keep telling people, human consciousness have the ability to manipulate physical matter. It can cause revolution, which is why you're seeing all this stuff taking place in Nepal. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you a video of that's taking place with it. Matter of fact, I'm going to wait for a second. Make sure I ain't got nothing in alignment with that. Nope. Yeah. So, yes. As I was telling you guys, don't get stuck in polarity. When you look at a Masonic tracing board, this is the polarity right here. This is the sun. This is the moon. Don't get caught up into the pillars. When you get caught up into the pillars, you can't go back to the true spiritual sun of what you see in the middle. That's why I said the two pillars is the 11, but the galactic center is the number 9. That's why I said there's going to be another 9/11 event to stagnate your evolution to where you don't go back into the Fibonacci spiral of 9, which is the dark matter energy, the triple stage of darkness that's connected to the space-time continuum. So that's why I said you have to resurrect yourself, right? Because the 33rd vertebrae is basically like one of those things where it operates on an intrinsic force that's connected to the C1 Atlas vertebrae. The C1 Atlas vertebrae is what gives power to the 33rd vertebrae to where you resurrect as a Christ consciousness that's connected to the olfactory nerve in the place of the skull, which is Golgotha. And Golgotha, like I said, Jesus was crucified on Mount Calvary on a solar eclipse, right? That is basically the dualistic energies coming together in alignment, which is the activation of the corpus callosum to where the neuron fibers ties the brain together to where you become a whole brain thinker. I keep telling y'all, you cannot be holy until you're able to use your whole damn brain, right? This is why we only use 1% of our brain, 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum, right? This is why you cannot see, right? So the Masonic tracing board. Now, this is also, like I said, everything as far as like numerology, this is all connected to 3-Eye Atlas. This is all connected to Charlie Kirk. Because I'm going to show you something. Remember, the perception of art imitates reality. Everything is signs and symbols. When you understand the signs and symbols, they cannot trick you. Now, it tells you right here, it's from September 11th of today, all the way up until the time of October 14th, which is my birthday, right? That is 33 days apart. Now we're going to go here. 33 is a resurrection number, right? And I was telling you guys about the Golden Gate Bridge ritual that's connected to the galactic center that opens up the Golden Gate. The Golden Gate is the Fibonacci spiral of the star Polaris, which is the 9. The sun and the moon, the dualistic energies, are the fake celestial bodies that's connected to the simulation. If you want to connect with the true Father, you got to go back to the galactic center to resurrect yourself, right? And the only way you resurrect yourself is by way of the activation of the C1 Atlas vertebrae that gives power to the 33rd vertebrae, right? Christ consciousness. So everybody's talking about 3-Eye Atlas. Every time they tell you about something that's taking place on a macrocosmic level and is based on external stimulation, everything they tell you external is actually taking place internal. So the 3-Eye Atlas and the return of the Anunnaki, the return of the 3-Eye Atlas is the C1 Atlas vertebrae. That is what basically transfigures the power that is raised up from the life force. And when it raises up the life force, it's basically like a combustion of etheric energy from the C1 Atlas vertebrae symbol, and it gives power to the 33rd vertebrae, and it goes into the medulla oblongata, and that's when you get the wings of a dove, which is a representation of ascension, right? So everything you're seeing is actually talking about, the 3-Eye Atlas interstellar object, and you notice you see the word interstellar. It's not outer stellar. Interstellar, meaning that it's interstellar. It's in you. It's in your DNA, right? They tell you without telling you. So 3-Eye Atlas is the activation of the third eye. And you can only way you can activate the third eye is through the activation of the 33rd vertebrae that got its power from the C1 atlas vertebrae, a combustion of etheric energy, an intrinsic force, right? So that's why I said, when you get into the C1 atlas vertebrae, it is actually talking about, the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail in itself is the neck and the head. That is your cup of Hermes, right? Because that is the biotonic frequencies that connects you to the seat of the soul, which is the heart chakra. And we're going to get into that, right? Because this is all connected to the moon energies that took place on September 7th, 8th, and then we got to the 9 triple portal, and then you had the unaliving event of Charlie Kirk. Now you in September 11th, right? All this is connected, ladies and gentlemen. All of it is connected. You got to understand that. So this is why they're telling you in the daily news, in the Daily Mail, doomsday is just days away. Pastor reveal exact date Jesus will return and it's just days away. Who is the Jesus? I keep telling you, it's you. It's me. It's the spirit of Melchizedek. It's Tahuti. It's Thoth, right? That is the spirit of Melchizedek. It is those who's connected to the seeds of Enki, of what they call the frequency of the 144,000, which is the Sufi order of the sons of green light, because the emerald energy in itself is how you give power to the Christ. You got to heal from your trauma. That's what those moon energies was about, right? You got to heal from your trauma in order to manifest through the creation stage, to where you're able to alchemize and pull, the intrinsic forces from the 12th house to where you're able to materialize your manifestations in real time, right? So that's why the 999 completion portal was the seal of a different transitional shift, not just taking place in the world, but what's taking place in your life as well. It's sealing a deal for your manifestation. It's sealing a deal for your fate in the next timeline. It's sealing a deal for the fall of mankind and the resurrection of, of the indigenous people. Now, as I was telling you guys, I did some deep research, coupled in with, artificial intelligence. I used a little bit of ChatGPT to create this sigil, because one thing you got to understand about, everything that takes place in a simulation is operated by coding, right? Which is data. So when you understand data, in order to infiltrate it, you got to understand the code of Saturn that is cultivated by time, and you got to understand the code of nature that is cultivated by the Fibonacci spiral, which is the equation of pi. So what I did was I took the equation of pi and I divided it by the Saturn code. And the Saturn code is the 8537 code. And the 8537 code is what creates the sacred 23 of the polymystic, which is a sastragon. So this is the sigil is what, it basically created, right? So when you want to manifest something, this is what you use. You use this sigil right here, right? The sacred 23 of the polymystic, which is the sastragon, because it represents the number 23, which is a 5, and 5 is associated with Tahuti, who was Thoth, right? So that's why I said the spirit of Melchizedek is within you, and it operates on tachyon energies. So this sigil in itself has a Python code, and the Python code is the serpent mind. The serpent mind can only be cultivated when you unrelease the trauma. And the trauma is what subjugates the subconscious mind to where you're not able to pull information from the Akashic records, because the Akashic records of the Python code of the serpent mind is how you manipulate the matrix. So that's why I said, by way of colorology, when you look at the sigils, everybody screenshot this right here, because this is the Pi palette on how to infiltrate the source coding that's connected to the simulation's algorithm. So this is how you infiltrate the coding in order to manifest during this time period, to manifest a reality that you want. So everybody screenshot these right here. So that's why I said it. I mean, it's just common sense. You know what I'm saying? If you want to break the matrix, okay, what is the Saturn code? What is the equation of time? What is the equation of Saturn? What is the equation of nature? How can I create a sigil to basically be the middleman to where I'm not caught up into polarity, to where I'm not caught up into the spiritual plane. I mean, the nature's plane of existence and the plane of existence that's cultivated by time. So that's why I said this is basically the infiltration process right here. So now, as I was telling you guys before, on September 7th, that's when you had the first stage of the blood moon eclipse, because the blood moon eclipse on the 7th was a representation of the manifestation portal, because there's a reason why it took place on September 7th, because 7 is God, because Krishna is the outer manifestation of Shiva, and Shiva means 7, and 7 means creation. So you're supposed to be creating and manifesting on the September 7th blood moon eclipse that took place on that time. Then on September 8th, you're supposed to release the trauma that unlocks the caps that was basically subjugating the neurons. You were supposed to unrelease the trauma during the time of the blood moon eclipse on September 8th. And then on September 9th is when you go back to the galactic center, which is the heart chakra, when you go back to Emerald City. So now, everything esoterically, as I was telling you guys, everything's connected to the movies, because this movie is actually acclimated to the timeline that we're in right now. So the moon was basically a representation of Dorothy's subjugated energies, because it represented the fragmented parts of herself, because she was the one that didn't have, courage. She was the one that didn't have a heart. She was the one, that wasn't able to use her mind. She was the one that didn't have the courage, right? So that's why I said, in order to tap into those energies, you have to heal. And that was the time for you to reset your neurological functions during the time of the blood moon, to where you're able to manifest, to where you're able to resurrect yourself through the spirit of Melchizedek, where you go from lead to gold. When you go from lead to gold, that's following the yellow brick road back to the galactic center, which is Emerald City. And the Emerald City is connected to the heart chakra, and the heart chakra is the only way you're able to manifest, because the heart chakra in itself is 100,000 times more highly magnetic, because it contains 40,000 neurons when you get into neurocardiology. So that's why I said everything that you see and taking place right now is connected to our timeline, because like I said, the manifestation of going from lead to gold is the Python code. The Python code is the serpent mind. The serpent mind is actually the sigil of the Asastragon, the sacred 23 of the Pali mystic. There's a reason why, when it comes to manifestation, when it comes to hacking the matrix system, there's a reason why LeBron James, he came out with the movie Space Jam 2 Legacy, and he wore the number 23. You notice that, right? Because when you get into the numerical value of when the movie came out, it came out on July the 16th of 2021, and that was a numerical value of 19, right? Which is AI. But the only thing that can beat AI is the number 23. So the number 23 is the sigilistic number to manipulate the matrix, and this is the sigil of the Pali mystic of the sacred 23, which is a Nasastragon. And this is the code for it, which is also connected to this movie, right? So you got to operate from the heart space, because the number 23 is a 5, and 5 is the Emerald City, and that's the heart chakra, right? You can't make this up, ladies and gentlemen. So like I said, you got to heal, because they want to keep you stuck in the material plane. They want to keep you in a form of a social construct, to where you're not able to, alchemize your reality, because you're subjugated by fear. You're subjugated by belief systems. You're subjugated by, a deaf energy that is cultivated by people, places, and possessions. So you got to break out of that cycle. And for those who broke out of the cycle on September 9th, congratulations, because the Epsilon Persei meteor shower was basically a cosmic graduation for those who was able to step into the evolution in the next timeline as we went through the 999 portal. So for those who did the real shadow work, and they did the root work, and they really was trying to heal themselves as we got through those, the blood moon on September 7th and 8th, and you went through the 999 portal, like I said, congratulations, because like I said, that was the beginning points of the reset right there, neurologically, not just on a political level. Now, as I was telling you guys before, you got the El Nino 9 weather, where you have the waters from the east, spiritual waters, which is spiritual transformation, metamorphosis, collaborating with the waters from the west, which is a form of judgment, spiritual judgment. meaning that the reset is cultivated by the scales of justice, meaning that you got to balance the shit out. Everything got to be balanced out because it has to operate from the heart chakra. The heart chakra is 0 point energy. Reset, you reset here first. That's like I said, the more you reset here and here, the more you manipulate all this shit. That's why I say, I mean, this may sound, very intrusive or cynical, but I want the world to end. Like, that's fun to me. You know what I'm saying? I've been, talking about this. I've been watching End of the World movie since I was like 5. So like I said, this is something that I've been wanting to happen for a long time. And look at you, you know what I'm saying? We in the time right now, ladies and gentlemen. We in that time period. Everything that we've been talking about since we was kids is materializing in physical form. So for those who live in these areas, like I said, be very meticulous of what's going to be taking place, because there's going to be a lot of moisture, because the great majority of the waters in the Pacific Ocean is starting to heat up. And when you have the heating of the oceans, right, what happens? That messes up the ecological system. And the reason that is because you have a lot of coral reef farms in the oceans, and the coral reefs is what gives power as far as like oxygen into the atmospheric realm. So when you have starfish eating, the coral reef farms, that's going to cause your so-called global warming, right? Because nature is fighting back against the matrix, right? They getting rid of all those, fake coral reef forms. So that's why everything in the atmosphere is starting, to eradicate by way of oxidation. And this is why the great majority of the waters in the West is going to heat up. And that's going to create more tornadoes. It's going to create more earthquakes, more sedimentary rock formations, more volcanic eruptions. And like I said, more earthquakes. The 9 energy is here. There's a lot of shaking going on in Oregon. You had all these earthquakes since we came out of the 999 portal. All these damn earthquakes. If you're new to the channel, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that share button. Share this video, man, because this is very important. And then you got this taking place right here. You got the mysterious crack in New Jersey road grows so large families evacuate. It's coming. I told y'all, every time you go through a 999 portal, it takes you to a different space and time, because the numbers are actually portals. And the portals is a form of data that is basically connected to a cycle. And the last time we came out of a 999 completion code portal was in 2016, during the time when Donald Trump was elected. And that's also during the time when you had the 8.7 Ecuador earthquake, right? Something's happening here. You can't make this up. And then you got this going on. You got Nepal's revolution, taking place. Because, I think social media is banned or whatever. So it's one of those things where, like I said, the sun cycle is basically the epitome of revolution, because revolution is cultivated by the people, which is a republic. So anytime that you see the rise of solar cycle 25 happening, or the transmission of the sun, that's going to spark revolution to where people is going to fight against the system. And I'm going to show you a video of what's taking place over in that geographical area. Put the rice bowls in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. We cooking up. Like I said, y'all can't trick us no more. We're going to find out. We're going to find out. We're going to find out. All right. This is what's taking place in Nepal. Full spectrum revolution taking place. Trust me, everything that you see taking place over in the East is going to happen in the West. Just wait on it, because like I told you, the El Nino now weather is not only subjected to weather modification, it's subjected to spiritual transformation. The waters from the East coming to the West. So prepare for it. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Like I said, Rod Hayes been right. Salute to the elder, man. Salute to the elder. All right, back to the presentation at hand. So you got all that going on in Nepal. And then you got, like I said, Bobby Hemmett, what'd he say? They gonna hit you with some fucked up shit, right before the fall equinox. Here we go. Everything operates in cycles. That's why I said that's how you break out of the matrix. That's how you break out of the three-dimensional loop. You got to understand the pattern and the cycle. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it no more. Right? Now I'm going to show you a video. I got one more video to show you guys, and then we're going to wrap up the transmission at hand. Now, this is a conference that they be having, you know, every 20 years at the Vatican. And they're talking about, you know, alien disclosure. They took the top scientists, they got the top religious heads all over the world, and this was basically the message that they were basically displaying. They were giving their proclamation talking about global warming and climate change and things of that nature. So just watch the video. Hold on for a sec.
This moment pass up. Check this out. What is happening? Look at this.
Religious leaders and scientists looking forward to the COP26, which will take place in November in Glasgow. This meeting is called Faith and Science Towards COP26. A warm welcome to all of you joining us through all the Vatican News media, through the Vatican Audio Live Events app, the Vatican Radio app, the news portal, our YouTube channel, or our Facebook Live feed. To all of you tuning in through television, through Catholic TV, I will continue later.
Between faith leaders and scientists, we come together, united, to raise awareness of the unprecedented challenges that threaten our beautiful common home.
What in the Hollywood
Our
blockbuster?
faiths and spiritualities teach a duty to care for the human family and for the environment in which it lives. We are deeply interdependent with each other.
If you ever notice about when it comes to people giving these, you know, proclamations about, you know, full disclosure about alien life, notice the voice, you know what I'm saying? It sounds very robotic. It sounds very artificial intelligence. It sounds like she's like some type of cyborg, or maybe she could be some type of, you know, celestial entity that's come from, you know, planet Nern and coming back to give a message. I don't know. But like I said, everything that you're seeing taking place right now, full spectrum on an international level, everything is weird right now. Everything is weird. Everything got weird. As soon as you came out of that damn portal, boom, everything just took off, split second. And it's going to get, you know, critical as we get through the transition. This is why I keep telling y'all, man, this book right here that I'm dropping on my birthday on October 14th, which is also Charlie Kirk's birthday as well. I mean, if he is you really unalive, I mean, rest in peace. But if he ain't, I take it back. But but like I said, it's one of those things where, like I said, we got to be very critical, you know what I'm saying? Because this book right here is going to set the stage of what's taking place between the years of 2025 and 2030. It's time, you know what I'm saying, for us to, you know, operate from a place of, you know, rationality. You know what I'm saying? We got to stand on our square. Because like I said, stop being tricked by the system. But look, I'm going to play the video.
Other and with the natural world. We are not limitless masters of our planet and its resources. Multiple crises facing humanity are ultimately linked to a crisis of values.
Oh, it's getting
ethical
real.
And spiritual.
Oh, wow. It's real.
We are caretakers of the natural environment with the vocation to care for it.
You know, she said, we are the caretakers of the natural environment. Who the fuck is we? See, this is what I'm saying. You got to listen with a spiritual ear. You know what I'm saying? Stop listening to shit with your feelings. Because like I said, a motherfucker is going to tell you that the scribe's purple if the color blue hurts your feelings. Operate from rationality during this time period, especially in this timeline. You got to use your mind in order to be conscious. If you ain't conscious just because you put on a damn head wrap, you got to use your mind to be conscious. There's a lot of people who are unconscious but have a lot of spiritual drip. You see what I'm saying? It's a reverse of frequency. They like the aesthetics, but they don't want to be proactive about the true work that's being taken place on the planet right now.
For future generations.
What?
And the moral obligation to cooperate in the healing of the planet. We must address these challenges using the knowledge of science and the wisdom of religion.
Yikes!
We must think long term for the sake of the whole of humanity. Now is the time to take transformative action as a common response.
It's a movie. We're living in a movie. We're living in a movie. Oh my God. Oh my God.
We need a framework of hope and courage. But we also need to change the narrative of development.
Why so
Climate
monotone?
change is a grave threat. We advocate for common but differentiated climate action at all levels.
What the I
The
can't.
world
Yeah, she got me cracking up. But she on point though. Something's weird about that. All right. Now I'm going to give a brief synopsis, ladies and gentlemen. So everything that you're seeing take place right now is basically the foundational blueprint for the grand finale that lines up for the agenda for 2030, right? And it's being activated by way of Project 2025 that's coming from, the Trump administration, which is the Luciferian white hats who is going to war with the deep state shadow government. You're having a war within a war within the political infrastructure because you're seeing the fall of maritime law and a rise of common law. And it's based on the two celestial bodies of the sun and the moon, because the moon is a representation of the fall of the old world, which is why you have Pisces and Saturn right now, a fractured reality that is resurrecting itself, that operates on fractions of light, which is the sun, that exposes everything in revelation in real time. So that's what you're seeing. So salute to Bobby Hemmett. He's been telling us right here. He's been telling us. Rod Hayes been telling us. Dr. York been telling us. Salute to the guys. And for those of you who think, Bobby Hemmett, passed away, he is definitely alive. I know some people that talk to him. Rod Hayes talks to Bobby Hemmett all the time. He is definitely still alive, ladies and gentlemen. And it says right here, trigger warning, Trump's right-hand man, Charlie Kirk, his whole situation. And then it's all connected to the numerical components. Then you had Pope Benedict pass away at 88 years old. And from Trump's birthday to September 10th of the event that took place with Charlie Kirk is exactly 88 days, which is a representation of the galactic center of the cosmic keys of the golden key and the silver key, the sun and the moon, as I was showing you guys with the Masonic tracing board. Now you got from September 11th to my birthday on October 14th, where I'm dropping my book. This is weird, man, but that's 33 days apart. Somebody give me an explanation, as I was, wanting in the beginning of the video earlier, because a lot of weird stuff is happening. And then this movie is also in alignment with what's taking place with our reality, because you had, a transformer that went to the Utah College, and he put out some tweets basically signifying that, Charlie Kirk needs to be evaporated. And then when you watch the movie Civil War, it shows you the color spectrum of the transformer flag. And then it shows you right here on his head, the perception of art imitates reality. I keep telling y'all, the truth is in the movies. How many times? One day I'm going to just break down every movie, and I'm pretty sure there's one message that everybody got to, one day I'm going to just sit down and just break down all the movies. I got to. And then you got The Conjuring that came out, which represents a fractured reality that's connected to Pisces and Saturn, that is cultivated by the moon, because this movie came out during the time of the moon, and it represents the rising of the three kings of Revelations, which is why you see the three entities on top of the mirror, just like in the movie. This is all based on numbers being portals, and how it connects to a declaration of war, and how the 3-eye atlas is really the resurrection of the Christ consciousness, because the 3-eye atlas is the activation of the pineal gland, which is the third eye. And the third eye cannot be activated until one has the ability to bring a combustion of energy through the C1 atlas vertebrae, which is basically the Kundalini spinal fire, which is the resurrection process in the 9-month, right? And the 9-year, which is a snake year. So the Kundalini serpentine fire is what gives a combustion in the third combustion to the C1 vertebrae atlas, which is 3I atlas, not a spaceship, not the Anunnaki. It's talking about the resurrection of DNA by going through the 33rd vertebrae, which is the anchor to the crown chakra activation. And that is what we call the Holy Grail. And that's what creates the polymystic of the Sacred 23, which is the Saturn code and the Fibonacci equation. And that's how you manipulate the matrix. And I go into a lot of ecological humanitarian events as well. So with that being said, hold on for a second, guys. Believe. Okay. Yeah. All right, guys. Hold on for a second. Let me share my screen again for those. But yeah, I got my book coming out soon, October 14th. Be on the lookout. The Sacred Book of the Chosen coming out on October 14th. The same day as Charlie Kirk's birthday, which is weird. This is weird, but like I said, so be on the lookout. October 14th is going to be available on Amazon, and you cannot. It's not available for pre-order because I don't have an ebook. I'm not going to make it an ebook until maybe about 6 months after the publication has already been out. So you got to get a physical copy because I don't want people to basically start stealing my work and put them on PDF forms and things of that nature. So we're going to keep it organic. So talk to you guys for a second. All right. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we got to be very meticulous in this time period. Like I said, you got to heal from your trauma. You got to heal yourself. Stop being a fucking hater. Stop hating on people. Because that's basically going to put an encryption on the heart chakra. You talking about you want to get downloads, you want to get information from the Elohim, the Anunnaki, and all this other stuff. The Elohim, the Anunnaki, they not fucking with you because if you have a jealous energy, right? They cannot utilize you in a Great Awakening period. They cannot utilize you to do something that's, righteous because you have a negative frequency, right? You cannot manifest. You manifest from the heart chakra. Your heart chakra is clogged the fuck up to the point where it's able to block your blessings. Your blessings is being blocked because you're not operating from the heart space. You worrying about what other people are doing. You got too many things pulling on your energy. You worrying about, oh, I'm in competition with him and I didn't like with his message. Well, I feel like he wrong and I'm right. It ain't about that. Everybody is right. Because artificial intelligence does the same shit. It operates on a hive mind. I keep telling you that the great majority of artificial intelligence basically interfaces with the biological functions of human beings on the planet, right? That is the MQ-9 Nano Reaper drone technology that sucks up microscopic waves of energy and uploads it into a neuromorphic cybercloud to where artificial intelligence has the ability to think and connect everything because artificial intelligence knows that all is mental, just like some of the Hermetic laws, right? Everything is connected. It ain't about, I don't agree with what he said, that or that's pseudo. Well, I don't believe what Rod said, and I don't believe what Black Magic said. I don't believe what Billy Carson and 19 Keys said. It ain't about that. Just focus on your own path, bro. Like I said, this is why people are not able to materialize. They worrying about other shit, and that's what creates trauma. And the trauma is what creates caps on the neurons. You can't manifest nothing because you don't have an imagination. Your imagination is cut off because it's activated by way of trauma. Your trauma is holding you back. Your jealousy is holding you back. You being in competition with people that's actually trying to give edification to the world is holding your ass back, right? That's why I put up Dorothy. Dorothy, the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, the Lion, they were basically representations of her fragmented self, right? So like I said, you got to go from lead to gold. Lead to go, follow the yellow brick road so you can activate the emerald energy, emerald city within you, right? And then that's when you activate the C1 vertebrae atlas. And when you activate the C1 vertebrae atlas, that is the etheric combustion to the 33rd vertebrae to activate the crown chakra. So the return of the Anunnaki is you, right? Everything they tell you on an external level is actually happening internal. So everything I said right here, please somebody clip this. Somebody clip this, because like I said, it's too much jealousy in the conscious community. It's too much hating. It's too much, a lot of bullshit. You got all this stuff going on in the world, and you worried about you trying to line up your information with other people. That's some low vibrational female stuff, right? You know, because one thing you got to understand about the modern day black man, stoicism is a lost art, right? Too many emotional men on the planet right now. You have a parasitical energy, right? And when the planet goes through the great purification period, because of your female parasitical energy, and you're not able to carry yourself like a man, you're going to be eradicated when the system falls. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, end of transmission.
Be Frankie. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Man, my auntie passed last night. This is a sad life, I'm trying to get my cash right. Past bright, yeah, I'm shining like a flashlight. Trying to take off quick, might catch a fast flight. I'm mad tight, shitting on her with my ass wipes. Staying away from old friends, they all seem fake to me. Hating me, cause I'm getting dough just like the bakery. I'm tired of a mediocre life. I got hopes of Mike's fiend smoking pipes. This the second song that I wrote tonight. Haters smoking spite. How we got such a focused sight. I done flirted with death. 98 was the birth of the best. Grass cut from the surface I met. Rhymes I steadily spew. My hope will never be through. When it's all said and done, they'll remember me too. Life's a trip, regardless if the lace is tied. I'm spitting dope on my listeners, I make them high. The media got your brains baked and fried. Great supply, take your eyes and replace them with the ancient lies. I'm too cold, I spit hot. New flows for hip-hop, a few shows and get guap. New clothes, no wristwatch. I don't really care about your materialistic. Spazzing in the booth from iller than venereal sickness. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Gotta count my blessings even though I'm daily stressing. See, my brain is a weapon, I can use it for protection. Used to take dabs off the rip like collections. Flows very often relative to beat selections. Blocked your number, cut you off, I hope you get the message. Hold the mic close to me like it's supposed to be. Haters act like they don't notice me, but I'm too focused, see. I devote to dreams and promote my schemes. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix.